Hi everyone, and welcome to my second episode of Trek China. Today I'm going to take you on a nice walk through Zhaomu Mountain Forest Park, and this place is really quite close to my home. I've already walked about 20 minutes to get here, and normally the whole route takes about 3 hours, so I get really good exercise, and I either like to do this really early in the morning, and today it's about 6:30, or sometimes in the late evening. So like I said, this is Zhaomu Mountain Forest Park, entrance number 5, and the route I normally take is about 3 hours long, but our episode today isn't going to be 3 hours because I'm just going to show you the Forest Park segment. I also have a topic that I want to discuss with you, and that is my journey of learning Chinese and how I think I've managed after what's it been, about 20 years. Right, so it might be a little bit dark at the moment, but don't worry, it will be lightening up soon. And what's interesting, if you come here at like 6 in the morning, you will come across quite a few people. So we've just got this guy who's on his early morning jog. I'm sure a little bit later we'll see perhaps some elder people around. They'll be doing some Tai Chi perhaps, or some like morning dance exercises. I don't expect we are going to see a lot of young or middle-aged people because, like I said, today is actually a weekday. And I want to take this opportunity to take you on this walk through Zhaomu Mountain because really this forest park is a beautiful place, and we're going to get some nice views. I've seen the weather forecast, and we should have some clear skies. Although looking up, it's not looking quite that way at the moment. But by the time we get to some of those viewing platforms, and perhaps the main point, the highest point I want to take you to, is the what they call the Lanxing Pagoda, but it's translated on the signage here as the star-picking pagoda. So let's just call it that. Also, there's a big viewing platform, which if you look on the sign, is kind of like a outlook post for forest fires, but really you get a nice little square there, and people go there to do their little exercises, chill out. Some people might play some cards, and also we have some nice views over the local area. Although we're in the middle of quite a highly populated residential area, all you need to do is come up onto this mountain, and it's so quiet. At the moment, there's that really small drone of traffic you can hear in the background. Yeah, there's somebody tooting a horn there. It's not even 7 in the morning. But for the most part, it's very quiet, and all you can hear are the sounds of nature. Now, what I like about this park too is that you have so many routes you can go. I try to get a map on my mobile, or try and show you on Google Earth, but we have so many different routes you can take, and you have entrances and exits to the mountain, really all sides and edges of the mountain, and it's really quite contiguous, and you have really good access no matter where you are. If you're willing to walk perhaps 10 or 20 minutes, you have really good access to the forest park. Because when I first came to Chongqing, and even as late as a decade ago, there was really nothing around here. But now this whole area has been built up, and really the urban part of Yubei District stretches north now almost as far as Beibei. It's just incredible the speed at which they have developed this area. But really, it took me a few years before I really came to explore this mountain, and I've really experimented with lots of different routes, but I've really settled on this particular one I'm doing today, because for me, a 3-hour walk, it might sound a long time, but when you're in these surroundings, it's really nice. And sometimes especially when you have a really hectic, work and life schedule, I think it's really important to come to places like this and just, relax, just enjoy the peace and quiet. You can contemplate a little bit. We might meet some nice people along the way, have a little chat, And also, I do like to catch up on some of my favourite podcasts and videos. So doing those 3 hours, I can really use that time to catch up on some news and commentary and the like. Another thing I really appreciate is the exercise you can get here. You might not know that only 3 or 4 months ago, I was about 85 kilograms. I was, quite overweight, let's say, but over the last couple of months, I've been following, I wouldn't say strictly, but I've been doing my best to follow a keto diet. So I've been cutting out lots of stuff, the rice, the pasta, bread, anything made with flour. Then also my other favourites, anything that has a lot of sugar in it, particularly things like sweets and chocolate. Also coffee that is very sweet. I've been choosing anything that has 0 sugar in it, and I don't have any sugar substitutes either. I think that's definitely the healthiest way to go. And then I've also blended it with this new exercise regime. And I'm not a big fan of running. Whenever I get on the treadmill and run for 20 or 30 minutes, I don't know why, but I find it such a drag. But I find that walking is no problem at all. And when it comes to fat burning, I really find, especially with the visceral fat, I really had an extended, stomach not too long ago. But if you keep a good pace over the 3 hours and then do it on an empty stomach, either first thing in the morning or maybe late at night, and really if you could do those things and cut out the alcohol, it can really do wonders for you. It's still kind of a bit misty looking into the distance, because Chongqing has a nickname as Fog City, and I can tell you today this is definitely fog, it's not smog, and I'm not just saying that for publicity, because I can tell you from experience that compared to 20 years ago, the air quality is really good now, but we'll leave that topic for another video. It's also quite interesting. There are a couple of resident strays on the mountain, but they're mostly quite timid. I haven't heard anybody being bitten or chased by them, so they're nothing to worry about. Okay, and we've got the young people on their bikes going past again. But yeah, you'll be surprised you can find people here, I think, all hours of the night. I have tried this at night time, in the summer particularly, when it gets dark a bit later. Now, I was doing these walks starting around 7 or 8 p.m. But in a little while, we will see a couple of small pathways that if you go through at night and they don't turn the lights on, it can be a little bit creepy. Not that there's anything to worry about, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of the that feeling you get from watching the Blair Witch Project. How long ago was that? 22, 23 years ago. Yeah, it's just crazy how time flies. All right, so I'm going to talk about our main topic, and that is going to be my experiences of learning Chinese. And I'm going to tell you first and foremost that I'm no prefect. I am far from perfect, but I do think, based on my experience, because I was an adult learner from absolute zero, from complete scratch, when I was aged about 22, 23 years old, and I definitely think I have some advice that could be worth taking. Although another caveat here is that times have moved on a little bit. So when I first came and was trying to grasp the fundamentals of Mandarin Chinese, it kind of seems like another age now, because I would say it's a lot easier now because we have so much access to really good content on platforms like YouTube, or if you're in China on WeChat and TikTok, Douyin, and all that. So, stuff that I would love to have had access to all that time ago. But nevertheless, I would still recommend them as interesting ways to study the language. Now, just ahead, we've got another main entrance to Zhaomushan Forest Park. I'm going to show you that, and then, we'll get into our main topic for today. Like I said a bit earlier, today is Tuesday. It's a school day. We can see a lot of the youngsters are going in for their morning lessons. What time is it? It's pretty early. It's only 7:15, but that's how they do things here. And they look in a fairly good mood, considering how early it is. And back in England, I never went to school that early in the morning. Right, but this is entrance number 3, I think. And we're going to continue walking in that direction. I reckon we still have an hour or so to go before we make it to the star-picking pagoda, Lanxing Pagoda. But we can see things already starting to liven up. We've got lots of people around, lots of people jogging, got some older people out for a stroll. And you never know, sometimes we might bump into the park rangers, because I know there are at least 3 park rangers here, and they all know me because I think I'm just about the only foreigner who comes to this mountain on a regular basis. So we're definitely on good speaking terms, but maybe we'll catch them sometime today. And I think they do actually live up here on the mountain. We'll see a little bit later, there are some huts where they can stay overnight here and there. Right, so when it comes to learning Chinese, I started from absolute scratch when I would say I was about 22 years old. From the time I knew there was a strong possibility I could come to China, I remember I bought like a Mandarin Chinese course. It was called Colloquial Chinese. And it had a little textbook. It had some CDs, we were still on the CDs in those days. And inside it had, I don't know how many different units about common everyday situations we need to deal with. I tried my best with it, but I really found it hard work. I think if it was a Western language, Italian or Polish or something with a similar alphabet, then it might have been a bit easier. But, they had a lot of the original Chinese characters with pinyin, which I found almost impossible to memorize. I did give it a try. And then also the tones, just forget those. I just had no concept that, a different tone would give you a different meaning. So I think for those first couple of years in China, that was perhaps the biggest difficulty. And, the quintessential example is always the ma, isn't it? So like ma can mean mother, ma can mean horse, ma is like a hemp plant, and ma can also mean to like swear at somebody or scold somebody. But anyway, if you're an adult learner, this isn't going to apply to youngsters, especially if they're here in China. My 2 daughters are complete naturals, they're much better than me, and they don't have an old British Midlands accent at the same time. Even though, particularly my older one, she speaks English with a pretty decent English accent, thankfully. But that's not a problem when it comes to Chinese. She just speaks that like a local does. So of course that's going to be perhaps your biggest difficulty if you're an adult learner who's had no previous experience with the language. Did you hear that? reminds me a little bit of Tarzan. But that's pretty common here. I mean, I can't quite explain what the benefits are of doing that. Maybe it's a way of relieving stress or something, or relaxing. I mean, is that it again? I don't know if you can hear, but I would say on most mornings, if you climb up onto the mountain, you can hear people shouting, and it sounds almost like he's in a scrap with somebody. But you can come up here and shout, and it's not going to wake up the neighbours or anything. This is a good place to do that. Incidentally, there are lots of like interesting places you can find up here in the mountain. And there weren't any signs, explaining what they're all about. But this kind of looks a bit like a lookout tower. I mean, this mountain will always have been here, and even though it's only been developed in the last couple of years, I mean, it's very possible, it had some historical uses, maybe during the War of Resistance or something, who knows. But along the way, we will see some interesting landmarks like this. And, something I find a bit annoying about the tones is that it's almost impossible to know when you're making a mistake. And, people are very polite. Even if you make a mistake and, you're talking with a local here, they're not really going to correct you. And, I've tried that with my wife in the past. Maybe I told her to listen to me read an article, and if I make a mistake with the tones, she's got to stop me and correct me. But even doing things that way was very frustrating, because she would stop me almost like every half sentence, and after a couple of minutes, it's kind of like, oh man, I can't go on with this. Looking back, I would definitely say, if you're a beginner in Chinese, you really need to put a lot of effort into this, right from the start. And it might be tough, but it's something I think that would pay dividends, in the very near future. Right, so this is something I was talking about. I mean, I suppose we could try and poke our head through the window. They have these buildings dotted around, and I think the park rangers live in here. And I'm sure they do live on the mountain, because they're here almost every time I come for a walk. I'll maybe see if there's anything in there. I can see a bed in there, but it kind of looks a mess. And when I say bed, it's like one of those makeshift ones. It's like a plank of wood held up by a couple of plastic stools, and with some bedding on it, and I can see some chairs, like a small table. I don't know, can you see anything? Up ahead here, we've got the first major landmark, and this is called something like the Moon Observation Tower. And it's going to give us a really nice platform to look over the city. They've got this nice little corridor over there. I mean, that'd be nice in the summer months when it's really hot. I mean, the mountain is only about 300 or 400 meters above sea level. So if you come here during the summer, you're not really going to get away from the summer heat, but nevertheless, it's always a pleasant place to come. As we can see here, this place is called the Yaoyuege, so kind of invite the moon pavilion or something. But I think it was translated as the Moon Observation Pavilion. And we can see we've got a nice old lady over there, kind of doing some morning exercises. Here we've got a sign telling us what this place is all about. So this is the Zhaomushan, Zhaomu Mountain, Senlin Forest, Fangmiehuo. So this is like fire prevention and extinction. Liaowangta, or Liaowangdian, so like an observation or outlook point. Now, I've been here so many times, I don't normally bother climbing all the way up, but just for you guys, let's try it. And I'm just going to watch my feet, I don't want to fall over. Yeah, got another cool guy here doing some exercises. And here we go, we've got a nice view looking towards the south. Again, it's still a bit misty. We're not going to be able to see as far as I was hoping, but basically, if you look in the distance that way, I don't know if you can see it, that's the star-picking pagoda, Lanxing Pagoda. That's where we're going next. This lake or reservoir at the bottom, that's part of the forest park. And then that area over there is kind of like a high-tech zone. So down that way, we can see that main tower. I mean, that is the Gaoke office block. That's one of the twistiest buildings you can find in the world. Yeah, and then there are lots of kind of high-tech enterprises down there, lots of startups. And you find the names of the high-tech parks down there are named after planets, kind of like, Neptune, Uranus, things like that. And because of the twisty form, it can reflect sunlight in many different ways. And then you have all of these high-tech parks located around it, and they say that they orbit the office tower kind of like planets supposedly do around the sun. So how did I learn Chinese to begin with? Well, before I came to China, I studied the textbook, colloquial Chinese with the CDs, but I think because the language is so different, you have the writing systems. The writing systems are different, and there are lots of issues with pronunciation that really it didn't help me at all. So really, I didn't make a good start until I actually arrived in China. And it's an obvious point, really. If you want to learn the language, the best way is absolutely to go to a country where that language is spoken natively on a daily basis, and you can get immersed in that environment every day. If I hadn't come to China, then it would have been impossible for me to learn it properly, I think. Anyway, when I first came with another group of British people, we had a 3-week crash course based in Shanghai. And one of the things I noticed quickly was that on the TV they used to play a lot of these karaoke songs, some of the channels, and that's really good because obviously the lyrics don't change, and they have a lot of repeats. And I noticed that, okay, if I learnt a couple of these songs, and particularly a song that is very catchy, then that would be a great way to learn. But after I arrived in Chongqing, I bought one of those older Nokia phones, with those like Nokia phones with the tacky keyboard covers that kind of like flip out.
I'll tell you what I know.
And I think I forked out something like 3,000 yuan. The functions weren't that great. It could just make and receive calls, do like the traditional SMS. There were no apps in those days, just a tiny screen, not much colour. But the feature that I really wanted was the Chinese-English dictionary. So I got into the habit where I would put on a Chinese karaoke song on the TV. So basically, line by line, I would see a character I didn't recognise. I would use the stylus. I would write it into the dictionary function onto the screen, and I'm sure I was getting all the brush strokes completely wrong. But anyway, as long as it kind of vaguely looks like the character you're looking for, you're going to find it most of the time among the suggested characters at the bottom of the screen. And yeah, that's how I did it. So I found each character. I made a note, how do you write that pronunciation in Pinyin? What tone is it? Just within a few weeks of coming to China, I went out with some of the other Chinese teachers. We went out for karaoke. Yeah, and they were very impressed. So if you want to come here and impress a few people, make a mark, make a little statement, then that's definitely the way to do it.
是我唯一能接住的翅膀。
Oh, I've got a cute little pussycat here, look. Oh, the poor little thing. I know, where's your owner? Are you hungry? No, I don't have any food for you. Oh, he's looking at me with these like sad, pathetic eyes. Oh no. Oh, I'm sorry, little friend, I'm going to have to leave you here. Yeah, I can't take you home with me. Yeah, but hopefully somebody nice or one of the rangers will pick you up a bit later, okay? Oh no. I have to see you, little friend. I'm afraid you can't come with me. You can follow me around if you like. But I can't take you home with me, I'm afraid. Okay, looks like we've got a friend coming with us today. So let's see how long the little pussycat comes with us. Yeah, but you're going to have to keep up with me as well. I can't see, that's more like it. Yeah, I'm on a schedule this morning, so I can't dawdle today. Right, so back in 2003, buying the latest Hollywood films and pirated Chinese karaoke VCDs were a cinch because every street, even in the main squares, almost trod on her paw then, even in the main squares, every couple of shops would be selling like pirated DVDs and VCDs. So you could buy them, take them home. If they weren't very good quality, if they didn't work on the DVD player, then you just take them back. And normally the stall owners were pretty reasonable. They just give you another one and say, hey, try this one instead. And that really was a good way to get started. On CCTV, there was a really good program which they played almost daily, maybe like once in the afternoon and once in the evening, and it was called Communicating in Chinese. Oh, she's still coming. Bye-bye, little friend. I'm sorry you can't come with us. Oh, I feel so guilty. Oh, this has never happened to me here on the on the mountain before. Oh man, where was I? It was hosted by a guy who speaks he speaks Chinese amazingly and is known commonly in China as Dashan, kind of a bit of a star, although we haven't seen so much of him in recent years. Anyway, his show I found really useful.
Hello and welcome back to Communicate in Chinese. I'm your host Mark Rosewell, otherwise known as Dashan.
I suppose the acting kind of a little bit cheesy, if you like.
我有2张音乐会的票，你想去吗？听说特棒。
行啊，票呢？
在这儿。
什么？29排，31号？
对啊。
太远了，我是近视眼，坐在最后一排，什么也看不清。
第一排的票价50元呢，这才20元一张。
哦。
But the conversations you had in there were kind of like basic, really useful for beginners, or maybe beginners, coming up to the intermediate stage. Yeah, and then he does some really good, grammar exercises, and they have the actors come on screen and they really pronounce each word very clearly for you.
2张
音乐会
票
特棒，
那场球赛特棒，妈妈做的菜特棒。
So I watched that from start to finish. I watched all of his episodes. Then I suppose the next thing I did was I discovered a really good magazine called Crazy English, and this is not the guy who teaches English. This is like a magazine, and really it's originally meant for Chinese students learning English, but because it's all dual language, I think foreigners can easily use it to learn Chinese too. And yeah, I just read that for a couple of years, and then later, as I started to find, my level was growing, and I was not finding so much, new vocabulary in there. I then later changed to a magazine called China News Weekly, And then the rest of it really is just, getting out into society, meeting people, just kind of living and breathing the language on a daily basis. And then this brings me to another critical question. So like I said, immersing yourself in the language all day, every day is definitely the way forward. But even if you're in my situation, it might not work out that way, because I do know some other expats here in the city who have lived here, over 10 years, and they really speak very little Chinese. And I think, if you live here and you're surrounded by a lot of people who speak English well, and I tend to find that those who do speak English well here are very keen to use it all of the time with you. Not that they want to be mean or anything like that, but one, they like to practice themselves, and two, I do really believe as well, they're just trying to help you, I think. Okay, we've got Tarzan out again. Right, so this is the little pathway that is going to take us up to the star-picking pagoda, Lanxing Pagoda. I'm going to take you that way. We can go this road as well, although it's maybe not quite as interesting and we won't get the city view at the top. When it comes to girlfriends, wives, boyfriends, husbands, it's kind of a mixed bag when it comes to learning Chinese. In my experience, I would say my wife, who's from Chongqing municipality, not the main urban area, but since we've known each other, we've always lived in the main city here. For me, she's kind of at the ideal level. It's going to sound a bit selfish. She's at the level where you can communicate with her on all basic issues, and when I've taken her back home to England, she can communicate okay with the family. Although if you talk about anything complicated, topical issues or something, then she might get a little bit lost. In daily life, she always likes to speak in Mandarin with me. She's never spoken to me in the Chongqing dialect. And, the Chongqing dialect is maybe a question for another video. Our two daughters as well, she'll speak, Chongqing dialect with her relatives. But when it comes to me or the two daughters, she likes to speak to us in Mandarin. And I think that's pretty typical of parents in the big cities, I think, because they think in the long run it might be better for their professional development or academic development if they speak Mandarin very well. But anyway, my wife is at that perfect level where if you need her to, she can communicate quite well in English by herself, and she does have some foreign friends who she meets fairly often here in Chongqing. But for everyday purposes, when we're together, she always likes to speak Chinese. So that's really been a big help to me, and perhaps the most important thing. Chinese is not really like English. English is kind of like the world language. So obviously, we've had a lot of experience and a lot of contact with non-native speakers, haven't we? All over the world. So, we're kind of used to hearing different accents, kind of listening patiently, correcting people. But it's not really the case at all in China. They're really impressed here. They really love it if you speak Chinese for the most part. But on the downside, they don't have a lot of experience listening to different accents. I would say over 90% of people understand me without too much difficulty. But every now and then, you do come across somebody who's maybe never conversed with a Chinese-speaking foreigner. And if you throw in an English Midlands accent, then it can kind of throw them off a little bit. But when that does happen, normally after you've known each other maybe a few hours or something, a few days, they kind of adjust their ears, if that's the right term for it, and they can normally understand you okay. So I think in these beginner stages, that's also going to be one of the biggest issues you're going to face. basically being able to take setbacks, because until you reach the intermediate stage, you know, going on for advanced, people are going to find it difficult to understand you, and you know that can be a very frustrating feeling. Right, we're not far from the Lanxing Pagoda, but I do find this feature a bit interesting. So we're on the kind of the top of the mountain ridge, and I just find it really interesting how you find this random stretch of, you know, stone wall. I mean, I don't know how old these trees are, but I suppose all of this is basically here to maybe protect them and bring people's attention. So my Mandarin Chinese is all self-learnt, and the problem with that is that I think in the early stages, if you haven't really grasped something properly, then it could cause you more difficulties in the future. So if you are at the beginner stage, I would definitely recommend you find a tutor, or even a way to get some exchange. You know, like you meet a Chinese friend here, and maybe you meet and you study English together for an hour, then an hour of Chinese, something like that. I would strongly recommend you do that. I mean, in the early days, that's not something I did. I just kind of dived straight in the deep end. So I do feel that, you know, I would speak Chinese a bit better today if I had somebody to offer more guidance in those early stages. Here we've got another public bathroom, but it's particularly this stretch, this pathway. If you come after dark, it kind of feels a bit like the Blair Witch Project, because it's very dark and very narrow. You know, you have all of these animals, you know, scurrying around, and you have shadows going everywhere. So I kind of always find it a little bit creepy, even though there's nothing to worry about. You know, I don't think anybody has ever been like robbed here or anything like that, or mugged. So it's definitely there definitely aren't any safety concerns unless you fall down the steps or something. Okay, here we are. Let me turn the camera around and show you. This is the Lanxing Pagoda, and we're here just at the right time to catch the morning sun. Oh wow, I can catch this in one screenshot. Yeah, so that Chinese there, that says Lanxing Ta, Star Picking Pagoda. Got another dog here, but I don't think this one's a stray. So let's take you around here, and I'm also going to show you some of the city views. Oh, look at that. Right, and let's take a look over the city. Again, the weather's not so clear today, so we're not going to be able to see as far as I had hoped, but it still looks nice. And the buildings are kind of like silhouettes against the rising sun.
所以你们就是这亩山的是护林员吗？平时你们都住在山上吗？
对。
一般在这里工作的时候，你们要巡逻看哪些地方呢？一般山上就不会发生什么情况吧？很少。也觉得应该没有什么，反正我觉得这里的环境很好。我觉得唯一的问题就是防火吧。是的。可能夏天，然后呢？安全。对啊，就是人吸烟什么的，会不会制止他们呢？
你普通话讲得很好。
我觉得有些小问题啊，但是我觉得交流没有太大的问题吧。对。我是来自英国，但是我在重庆生活了20年。这挺久了，然后我在这个地区生活了接近10年，所以比较羡慕你们呢。我觉得生活在这座山上比较好。
你感觉我们重庆怎么样？
哦，很好啊！因为我20年前我来重庆的时候，我的想法就是我要在这里生活1年，再回英国。结果一直都没有回去，早就在这里定居了。对，所以觉得这里生活，觉得各个方面都很好，就觉得生活比较安逸。All right, so you had an opportunity there to hear my Chinese, and like I was saying, do I speak Mandarin well? Well, I would say yes. I mean, on paper, because I remember in 2011, around that time, I did get the advanced HSK. And yeah, also, I do have a lot of, practical experience with the language. And even though I might say something still that's maybe not all that correct or very natural, plus I do have my English accent, I can get my meaning across. And also, I would say that my listening skills and also my reading skills are very strong. But of course, producing it yourself is always a bit of a challenge. So I would say, I do speak Mandarin quite well. They're far from perfect, but for everyday purposes, I would say I've done a good job. Again, considering I began the language from scratch as an adult, 23-year-old, 20 years ago. But it's still a learning process, and even now, I still every day try to find words and phrases and or even things in local dialect that I don't understand. One more thing I want to show you as well is that if you look at the Lanxing Pagoda from a distance, it always looks really beautiful, and especially at night from my bedroom window. You think, oh, that's really stunning, but it's often the case that when you come up to these things up close, they're kind of a bit run down and dilapidated. And that's the case with this one here, so I can show you inside. There's really nothing at all. But we've got a warning up saying that you climb it at your own risk, and it's also firmly bolted up, so I'm not going to risk it and try and get inside. But that's worth pointing out though. Some of the buildings here on the mountains, they look really beautiful from a distance, but when you come up to them, they can be a little bit run down, so it's kind of more like an ornament rather than something you can really come in and climb up and experience. I'd really love to climb up to the top there and get a really good panoramic view over the city, but never mind, what can we do? Alright, apologies about that. I kind of had a slight fail with the battery this morning on Zhaomu mountain. I remember last time in Yunyang, the battery lasted for the whole course, and that must have been about an hour and a half to 2 hours. That's when we climbed the ladder city together. But never mind, next time we go out, I'll be sure to take a couple more batteries with us, and we won't have the same problem again. So thanks for watching, and I will catch you again later.